All right, today I got a real treat for you, but before we get to that, if you are just joining us, we are in week 3 of our series we've been doing this month called Extraordinary Story, and the subtitle is really important, how God uses ordinary people, because all of us are just ordinary people, and those are the people God chooses to use. So if you are new with us, I will tell you this series is different than what we normally do. We'll be back to our normal stuff soon. But what we're doing over the course of this month is we're looking back to celebrate what Jesus has done through us over the last 20 years, but we're also looking ahead and more importantly talking about, okay, what is the next chapter he wants to write in the story that he is writing and telling through us. So as we've been talking through that, it's important to understand that what we want to be as a church is not a meeting place, not just a place where we come, sit in rows, listen to somebody like me, listen to some good music, and then leave. That's just a consumer mindset. From the very beginning, our goal has been to be a movement that makes a discernible, measurable contribution in our communities and in our world. And what makes it unique for us, I think, is we're trying to do 3 things. We're trying to be Jesus-centered, others-focused, and outward-facing. Jesus-centered, we just want to love people the way he loves us. We just want to do whatever he has to say. Others-focused, we're going to be for people. Whenever there's a tension between what's best for us and what's best for them, we're going to put them first. We're going to be for them through no strings attached generosity because we want them to know that God is for them. And then outward facing, which is just our way of saying we're not just creating something for us. We don't exist for us, actually. We're here for those of you who are trying to figure it out, who aren't sure what you believe, who need a place to explore. We're here for people who aren't even here yet. We want to create the kind of church that people not in church love to experience as much as we do. They find it as helpful as we find it. That's what it means to be this. And because you've done such a good job of this, and we haven't been perfect, but you've done such a good job of this over the last 20 years, we have been placed in front of us some God-given, grace-driven opportunities. We've had these placed right in our hands. We did not manufacture them or plan them. We don't earn them or deserve them. This is not because, we're so amazing, but for whatever reason, God has chosen to put some opportunities right in our hands. And our responsibilities we talked about last week, our responsibility is to maximize our opportunities, not to settle for what we're content with and comfortable with, but to actually ask ourselves the question, what are we capable of? With the opportunities God's given us, with the talent, the resources that God's given us, what are we capable of doing? Now let's go maximize that. Let's go try to do that. That's what Jesus expects from us. So if you weren't here last week, just to catch you up, we talked about regionally, we've got this opportunity now to be a catalyst for a spiritual movement in our entire region because we have people driving, good numbers of people driving from not just Callaway, but Marshall and Graves and Henry and McCracken. So what would it look like for us to show up in all of our communities like we've been showing up here and show people we're for them and serve them the way Jesus would serve them and love them the way Jesus would love them? What would it look like to invest in those communities and try to make all of those places a better place and try to make it simple for all of those people to connect with Jesus? It just might change the entire direction of families and generations, and ultimately, it just might impact an entire region. And then nationally, we've got this opportunity to start and support churches around the country to make sure that there is a church like ours in every single community in our country. Because you're like me, you want our country to be a better place. You want to see our country, move in the right direction. And you can come up with all the solutions you want to come up with. But I don't think there's anything that can move the needle for our country like a church like this being in every community, a Jesus-centered, others-focused, outward-facing church doing in their communities what we're trying to do. Everybody in our country deserves to be within driving distance of a church like that. And then internationally, we've got a similar opportunity to launch and support networks of churches like ours around the world. And I'll just give you a quick teaser. Next week, we have a couple guys coming. One's coming from England and one's coming from Brazil. They are going to be here to share with you how you have made a difference in their churches and in their networks and in their parts of the world. And in some cases, you didn't even realize it. And we're going to talk about what that looks like and how we can make the most of this opportunity. But if you're sitting there going, well, wait a minute, why would we do that? We've got enough problems, enough issues, enough challenge in our own local community. Why would we care about anything beyond the people around us? Well, the short answer is because Jesus didn't give us the option just to focus on the people that we like, the people we live with, the people just in our community. You start there. But he said we're to take his mission and message. The movement is to spread to the ends of the earth, to every single nation. The Apostle Paul was talking about this to a group of Jesus followers in the region of Galatia. Galatia was a collection of cities. We call this area Western Kentucky. They called their area Galatia. And he's writing to all these churches that are part of these different communities in Galatia. And here's what he had to say to them. He says, let us not become weary in doing good, which we can all relate to that, can't we? Haven't you had moments in your life where you just, if you were honest, you were just tired of doing the right thing, tired of doing the next right thing because it didn't seem like it was paying off? Because in the short term, doing the right thing rarely pays off. In the short term, doing what Jesus asked you to do rarely pays off. The Apostle Paul knew that, which is why he's encouraging them, because they're tired of doing the right thing. They're tired of doing good. He says, don't get weary doing good, for at the proper time, you got to wait a while. In the long run, we'll reap a harvest if we don't give up. Then in other words, you're going to see the benefit of it, but you got to walk down the road a little bit. You got to give it a little bit of time before you see the benefit of doing the next right thing. And then he encouraged these churches and these communities to do this. Therefore, as we have, and here's our word, therefore, as we have opportunity, as God puts an opportunity in your hands, here's our responsibility. Let us do good to all people, not just the people we like, not just people we get along with, not just people in our local communities. He says, whenever you have an opportunity to do good, you should do good to all people, to people who don't believe like you, people who are never going to walk in your church, people who don't live in your community. You should do good to all people. And then he adds on, and especially, in other words, by all means, to those in different communities who belong to the family of believers. So what I want to do is take a couple minutes today to focus on what it looks like to maximize the opportunity we have nationally to make a difference in our country by starting and supporting churches around the U.S. And I could tell you about it. I have tried to tell you about it over the last couple weeks, but I thought it would be way better if you heard about it personally. So a couple friends of ours, a couple friends of yours that you haven't met before, you're going to get a chance to meet. They came all the way to be able to spend a few minutes to share with you today. Would you welcome our good friends, Josh and Chris? Come on and have a seat, gentlemen. Let me give you a little backstory on these guys while they're sitting down. So Chris Madden here is all the way up in Bangor, Maine. Any y'all ever been to Bangor? Anybody ever been to Bangor? Hey, you got a couple fans. Anybody been to Acadia National Park? Anyway, so he's up in Bangor and is about to, he's been working the last 2 years planning to start a church in Bangor like this one, because there is no church like this in Bangor. I was up there in July and spent a little bit of time with him. One week when I wasn't with y'all, I was with him and got to see it for myself. And they have their first public services next Sunday. So he is, yeah. But he ain't busy. He's got nothing to do. So he's here today. He flew in yesterday. He's flying out today. It's a quick trip. Thanks for being willing to do that. And then this guy on the end is my buddy, Josh Peterson. Josh is the pastor of Great Lakes Church in Kenosha, Wisconsin. Let me tell you, a Kenosha fan. Yeah. I went up to Kenosha. Josh invited me and Jordan. We came up to Kenosha and spent 2 days with his staff in January. He'll tell you more about that in a minute. But he invited me in January. Yeah.
I wanted you to get the real deal.
I got the real Wisconsin deal, I'll tell you right now. And he kept saying it's worth it because the cheese curds are amazing. So as he was getting ready to come down here, I said, man, we got this place called Culver's. Their cheese curds. Yeah. I think he's used to a little something different.
I can't wait.
Yeah. Listen, let me tell you how much Josh wanted to be here to talk to you guys today. He had a wedding he officiated late yesterday. And he drove 7 hours and got in at 1 a.m. this morning so he could be here today. So, Josh, thanks for making the effort. Appreciate it, buddy.
Man, my pleasure.
Yeah. So let's start with you, Josh. Just tell them a little bit about Great Lakes, what your church is like, what your mission is, what you are trying to do.
Yeah. So we are in the southeast corner of Wisconsin, right up by the lake. That's why when Matt came, it was a wind chill of 30 below. So he didn't get hot at any point.
It's very pleasant, pleasant, yeah.
Our church planted 17 years ago, so we run on pretty close tracks to Journey as far as like age and things like that go. But 2 years ago, I stepped into that role. We're a church that's for unchurched people. So we say a lot, you don't have to have any church experience to feel at home here. and we're excited that you're here. We built this place for you, and we do everything we do to help people find and follow Jesus. Like, that really is our true North Star that we run everything through. And so we're just in an interesting season where the founding pastor moved on to another church out on the West Coast, and I stepped in, and so that's led to all kinds of fun transition and learning and growth, and Matt and Jordan have been a big part of helping with that.
Yeah, when Great Lakes, when he became the pastor 2 years ago, they also stepped in. You'll talk more about this in a minute. They also stepped into the network we're a part of about 100 churches around the U.S., Irresistible Church Network. That's how we met. It's also how Chris and I came to meet. So Chris, church planning is a little bit of a different animal, and not just everybody does it. Some would say smart people don't do it. So why don't you, you and I can relate to that. So why don't you share a little bit about why you feel the need to start a church like this in Bangor?
Yeah, well, I actually had no desire to be a pastor starting out. My dad is a pastor, and so I saw firsthand how difficult that can be. And the two things in particular that I didn't love about pastoring, I wanted to be in ministry and have been in ministry since I graduated high school, but I didn't want to become a pastor because, number one, you got to stand up in front of people for 30 minutes and talk. Not my favorite thing. I'd rather give me a guitar and
Microphone,
lyrics,
yeah,
microphone, you know, that's fine because that's all memorized. It's not off the cuff. So that preaching was one. And the second thing was just the overwhelming responsibility of being a pastor. I watched that weigh on my dad year after year, and I didn't really want that in my life at all. The problem was I had been praying for 15 years for a church like this in my area. I kept saying, God, send a pastor. God, send a pastor. God, send a pastor. And I'll join right away. In fact, we ended up moving to Georgia. I'm like, it doesn't look like God's sending a pastor, so I'll go to Georgia. They got some great pastors there. But while I was there, I realized, no, I think I just need to do this. I need to get over my phobia of public speaking, and I need to take on that extra responsibility because there still needs to be a church in that area for people who don't go to church.
All right, so let me just stick with you for a second. Let's go ahead and talk about some of the challenges and pressures that have come with starting a church. And you have been part the last 2 years of the church planter coaching program that, if you've been around here, you've heard me talk about, that you guys have helped to create. Chris has been one of the, we call them guinea pigs, one of the beta guys who's gone through this for the first time. Just talk about what it's been like, the challenge of starting the church, and how the coaching program has been helpful.
Yeah, I'd say the two biggest things that most church planners deal with, and I'm no exception, is that we got to raise the funds to launch a church, and that's difficult. If you're starting at a church that already exists, they already have a building, they already have equipment, but when you're starting fresh, you got nothing. And on top of that, we also need a launch team. When I decided to do this, nobody said they were going to join me except for my wife, and even she was a little hesitant. So it was just us, and our greatest fear was we would go back, we'd tell people we're going to launch a church, and nobody would join. So we got to build a launch team, and we got to raise the funds. So those have been the biggest challenges. So through this program, they did three things. The first is we had a curriculum that we would go through every month. We'd read a book. We'd watch some videos, and then we'd discuss together. We'd also have a call group, 4 coaches and 4 planters, and we'd just say, hey, here's how things are going. Any advice? We'd talk through what I'd get to learn from what some of the other church planters were doing, and if they failed at something, I'd say, okay, I'm not going to do that. And if they had success, I'd jump right on board. So that's the second thing. And the third thing is once a month, I get to meet with a coach. My coach is Jeff. I dodged a bullet. Matt's not my coach, so I'm safe.
You got a good one. Yeah.
And we get to talk through all the details of what I'm going through. And many times, my wife and I will be talking about something going on in the church. She'll say, "When's your next coaching call?" Because she's like, "Hey, ask your coach because this one we need some outside help for." So that's what the program's been like for me.
Yeah, it's been exciting. By the way, the Jeff he's referring to, if you were here in week 1 and we played the video of all the pastors thanking you guys, Jeff was the guy in that ugly orange shirt that had a T on it. So how dumb am I that a Tennessee guy looked better as a coach than me? But anyway, that's where he is. No, it's been cool. We're so excited to see what happens, not just next week, but over the course of the next year as they get this church off the ground. And we didn't tell them. Go ahead and tell them the name of your church.
Journey Church.
What a brilliant guy, huh? How smart is that? Yeah. He said, we're calling our church Journey. And I was like, I think that'll work. I like that a lot, actually. All right, Josh, let's talk about Great Lakes for a minute. Sure. These folks have had an impact on your church and your staff in some ways they don't know. Will you just paint a picture for them of the small difference they've been able to make to help you guys?
Yeah. Context first, our church grew quickly after it launched. And when you're growing at that pace, it's really difficult to build structure for sustainability. You're just trying to keep up. So now that we're 17 years in and I came into this role, it became kind of my main goal. I have to figure out how are we going to build some infrastructure underneath this and some systems that we can use. So that's how we came across this idea of what we called a strat op. And that's when Matt and Jordan came. And they helped us kind of unpack where we were, what we were struggling with, what we were doing really good, and some of our strengths. I think that was the beauty of the whole process, was that they helped us get to some conclusions without telling us what they already knew. And then it became, and we can help you accomplish those things. So for us, it was, we just had no system for how we were going to move people from their very first week to feeling like they were in a place where they owned the mission for themselves, that was personal, and that they were going to be participating in the life of the church. And that's where you guys were such a gift to us, because we knew what we needed to do, but because of your model and your willingness to share it, Matt and Jordan could hand us a kit and say, here's how you can get that done. So we didn't rename our church Journey, but we basically named everything else the same. So we opened a suite. We just opened a brand new building, and there's a suite in there. And that's what we call it. We tried to come up with something better. You guys got the right answer. We have What's Next. We have Serve Now, and we're doing short-term groups. And I have a really young staff. This team's really, they're amazing, but they just don't have a lot of experience. So to be able to go, just do steps 1 through 10, and it'll work. And it has. It's been such a gift to us.
Yeah, one of the things I love about this that I want to connect the dots for is when a church reaches out to us and says, hey, tell us what you're doing to solve this problem, and we're able to share something. This is the beauty of it. So Josh and his team take it, and they start implementing What's Next and Serve Now and all the steps we invite you guys to take, so this feels like your church. But the beauty of it is it becomes an R&D lab, if you will, within our network. So Josh and them take it, they make it better, and then you know what we're doing? We're going, hey, tell us what you're doing and how that's working. And when Josh is like, well, we made this change, then we're able to come back and go, oh, that is a brilliant idea. Let's come back and we'll make ours better by stealing the idea they did. That's what's happening, where by us being generous, it comes back to us, and it's just a reciprocal thing back and forth. You want to just tell them a little bit about the impact it's made, and what Jordan and I did those 2 days we were with Josh is all we did is tell them what y'all were doing. That is all we did. Here's what people there are doing and at Journey are doing. It seems to be making an impact. What's been the difference as y'all have started making it simpler for people to make Great Lakes feel like their church?
Yeah, first I want to just tell you a dirty little secret about pastors. We're kind of competitive with each other. So what I love about this network, and have getting to know Matt, is that that's just not how it is. It really is exactly what he said, where it's sharing ideas and best practices. For us, we've been able to offer people a really clear pathway, and the impact's just been tremendous on so many fronts. I mean, we've gotten to see 17% year-over-year growth at our church, which is hard to do right after a leadership change. But I think because people go, I know what I'm supposed to do now. I walked in the door. I have questions. I know where to get the answers. I know how to get involved. They're gonna hold my hand and guide me the whole way through, because you've been there. You started your first week here at some point. It was probably pretty overwhelming. So the impact for us is just people have clarity about how they can get involved and take that mission personally. And what we've been able to do, I think, is help people go, yeah, Great Lakes Church exists to help people find and follow Jesus, and so do I. That's why I exist. That's why I'm in this community. And that just wouldn't have been possible without the pathway that we've been able to lay out using a lot of your model.
Well, I
what
love
you
that
guys
we
do
get to
here.
learn from each other.
Yeah.
Chris, talk a little bit from your perspective as somebody who's just starting a church and getting going. The network we're a part of, Irresistible Church Network, the ability to connect with other pastors like Josh. What's been the value of that for you?
Yeah, it's very similar. Just knowing that there's somebody else out there doing exactly what you're trying to do is incredibly encouraging. We had the opportunity to take some of our team to Gwinnett Church, which is a church I was a part of for a couple of years in Georgia, and also part of the network. And one of my team members told me after, I didn't realize that we weren't doing this alone, that we had this other church that's praying for us, that's there to support us. And they told all of my team, hey, if you ever need to call us with advice about any of the ministries you're doing, we're happy to help. So that's why the network's so important to me, is because I've got a resource there where I can reach out anytime to ask questions. In fact, for me, probably about a month or two ago, I needed to do all the signage for our church. And I was just going to bang my head against the wall trying to figure out, what signage do I need? I know I need signs, but which signs do I need? And I was telling Matt I was doing that. And he said, well, let me figure this out. So he and Jordan sat down and they looked at our map of the building and they looked at the map of the area and they said, here's what we do, because you guys were church in a box for years and you guys know how to do this by now. And so really quickly, he gave me what he'd do, where to buy it, all those little details. And it helped me a ton, saved many hours of work that I would have tried to do just figuring it out and wouldn't have done as good a job either.
So one of the things that makes us excited to be a part of this network, when I talk about we have an opportunity nationally to start and support churches like ours around the country in every community, that is the goal of our network. The network gives us a vehicle to be able to invest in that and make it happen. As a matter of fact, we're at 100 churches in the network right now. In the next 10 years, we want to get to 350 churches like this across the U.S., which gets us closer to everybody being within driving distance. And as some of you know, we've been talking about this through this series. It happened again this week. Somebody reached out to me, said, I have a brother who lives in this town in California, this city in California. Do we have a network church there? And in this case, we don't. And there aren't a lot of good options of places to go in that city. I checked and talked to some of my friends who were familiar with that city. That's the importance of this, that to be able to go from 100 to 350 churches like this, and like Great Lakes, and like Journey in Maine's going to be, having one of those in every single community gets personal for us really quickly. So, Josh, I want to give you the last word on this. I've been talking with them over the last couple of weeks about this opportunity in front of us. And the challenge, I think, Josh, is whenever to be a church that does what Jesus asked you to do and maximizes opportunity makes you uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. It costs you time and it costs you money. And honestly, I don't know that most churches are selfless and generous enough to be willing to maximize opportunity God puts in front of them. I don't know if we're going to be. We're about to find out. So what would you say to them from your seat about the importance of maximizing these opportunities and going ahead and following Jesus through on this?
Well, I'm sitting here because of it. And I represent a church of about 1,500 people that have benefited from it. And I think what I would encourage you to think about is this. So last night I drove from Kenosha down here. It's about 7 hours, at least if you drive like I do. And it's actually really far. That's a long distance. And you may never, ever come up to Kenosha, but you've had a lasting forever impact in Kenosha. And not just because one pastor met another pastor and we've become buddies and we talk and share ideas, but because I take what I'm learning from you and I bring it up there and give it to them, and they then put it in practice, and we are impacting our city and the region around our city. And maybe one day we'll be invited to give to another church in the way that you guys have given, but that pathway will always lead back here. It'll always lead back to you. It's exponential. We say a lot, and I believe this with all my heart, that God does way more with what we give him than we'd ever imagine to do with it ourselves. My guess is when you decided to start coming to Journey, you didn't think, I'm going to have an impact on a church up in Wisconsin. Probably didn't think about Wisconsin on a normal basis. But because you showed up and you said, God, however you want to use me, however you want to use us, however you want to use our church, look what he did. And look what he's doing. It's just tremendous to think about that invitation and what a privilege. So, when I told my team that I was getting to come and be part of Journey, they all said to a person, please say thank you for us. Please say thank you for us and their willingness to share with us. And I say, so from the bottom of my heart, thanks, but also from the bottom of my heart, keep doing it. Because there are hundreds of other leaders that need your help and they need your support. And they need to know they're not doing it by themselves. So you may not think about it consciously, but know the impact that Journey's having around the world, but even just within a 7-hour drive is tremendous.
Yeah, so for us to maximize our opportunity nationally really does look like this. It's one, just being open-handed and us continuing to share ideas and resources with churches like Josh's, and then we learn in return and everybody gets better. And then financially, it's us saying, okay, where is there no church like this? Bangor, Maine. Okay, how can we help come alongside people like Chris and just make it a little easier for them on the financial front to be able to fund starting a church like this in their community? We've got the opportunity to do all of that. So if you were with us last week, we kicked off our annual 4 offering. If you're new around here, this is an offering every single year that we do. We give every single penny of it away. We vet nonprofits locally and then some nationally and internationally. And we find the projects that would help them go further faster that they don't have the funding to be able to do on their own. And we try to fund it. And this year we vetted a lot of projects that can make a transformational difference. We never set a monetary goal for this. You know what our goal is if you've been around here. It's always 100% participation. That's all we're looking for. Because if all of us do what we can do, we'll make a massive impact. God has a way of taking what we can do and multiplying it in some extraordinary ways. I will tell you, typically when we do this offering, the first week it gets off to a slow start because you're busy and we drag our feet, right? And then by the time I'm like, hey, we're closing this, then here comes everything and it picks up. We had the best first week that we have ever had. And so to those of you who have already given to this, thank you. From a monetary standpoint, we are off to a really strong start. What's interesting is we're off to that strong start with 72 households, not individuals, but 72 households participating, which is about 11% of all the households who come here. So you know what you call that? Potential. We're off to a good start, but oh my gosh, do we have potential? There's just 89% of the households of you out there that if you just participate. Now, you know what you call potential that is never realized? Crap. That's what you call it. Okay? So I'm not, you ain't gonna buy anything or fund anything off potential, okay? I'm not real impressed with potential. But I know this. I know what we're capable of doing as a church. And I know the impact it'll make if we do it. So as I told you last week, you get to vote with your time and you get to vote with your money as to whether you believe in what we're trying to do regionally and you believe in places like Journey in Bangor and Great Lakes in Kenosha. So if you want to walk up to them afterwards and tell them you don't believe in them, go right ahead, okay? Otherwise, participate in this offering. Here's how you do it. You just open up the app, click on the For Fund, and make a gift. You can do it in 30 seconds. If you write a check or cash, that's fine. Just put For Fund on it, drop it in the giving boxes. On the left, right as you exit through the first doors. Now, real quick, if you call Journey your home, I want to ask you to do one other thing. I want to ask you to consider also, if you do not, setting up a recurring giving schedule and starting to invest financially here. And I'll tell you why. Because we cannot fund tomorrow's opportunities with yesterday and today's generosity. That's just my way of saying, those of us who invest here and give here financially, it's taking every dollar that we give to do what we're doing right now. We're not sitting on a bunch of cash. We don't have a lot of margin. If we're going to seize these opportunities, we need those of you who aren't yet investing here to choose to. So I want to invite you to consider doing that as well. And you know where the money's going to go. Guess what? It's not going to go to any of the boring stuff you say you don't want to fund. It's not going to go to keep the lights on, although I bet you wouldn't like it if they weren't on. It's not going to go to pay for the seats, pay for the mortgage, to do whatever. No. It's gonna go to fund these opportunities. Those of us who are giving here, we're already covering all the boring stuff. We need you to give to fund these new opportunities. And we need to do it because, as I said last week, the local church is the hope of the world. You want our communities, you want our country to be better. Jesus-centered, others-focused, outward-facing churches. That's the way it will happen. We need them in every community in our country. Last thing I'll say and we'll wrap up. There are a lot of pastors in our network who have texted me over the last few weeks and said, hey, keep me updated. I want to know how that thing goes that you're doing in September, which was their way of saying, we'd love to get our church involved, partnering to do what you're trying to do, but I want to see how your church responds first. Let's make sure you have a job at the end of September, Matt. That's what that means, okay? I'm telling you that because we don't have to do this alone. But somebody has to model the way and go first. And you've got the ability to do that. And there will be a lot of churches in our network who go, we'll jump in and help too. We'll jump in and help too. If we'll just show the way and lead the way. So it's your call, whether you want to maximize the opportunities or not. The first way you do it is through this offering as we get this thing kick-started. Josh, if you will, pray for these folks, pray for us as we close.
Love to. Heavenly Father, thank you so much for the chance to be with these amazing, incredible people that have been such a gift to me and to Great Lakes and to countless others. God, that's just no small thing. So I know beyond the shadow of a doubt that when you think of Journey, you smile because they are being faithful to what you called them to do, who you called them to be. So God, I pray that they would feel that and that you would continue to give them favor, that you would show them that when they do trust you with a little or a lot, you do more with it than they would ever imagine to do with it themselves. That they get to be a part of a community that's impacting an entire world. Give them joy in that they wouldn't be weary at any point of doing the good that they're doing. Use them in ways to not just change their local community, but all of these other communities so that one day we can celebrate that everybody can drive to a place like this to come in contact with a God like you who loves them and likes them and wants them. So God, I pray that you do big things even in the next few weeks through the offering and through Journey and these amazing folks. We love you so much. In Jesus' name, amen.
Would you guys thank Josh and Chris for coming?
Thanks.
They are going to be in the suite if you want to meet them and talk to them. If you're new, I'd love to meet you in the suite. The rest of y'all have an awesome Sunday. We'll wrap up this series next week. See you then.